When are you allowed to use other people's content on your Lemonade, Instagram, or other social platforms? Let's talk to an IP and entertainment lawyer to find out.
My name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called The IP Professor that is dedicated to all things intellectual property.
Lemonade is a brand new platform that we're seeing people behave really well on so far, but every once in a while, we get people who are using content that they have not created. Specifically, we're seeing people using pictures that they grabbed from Google or from Pinterest or something that they found out on the internet of a celebrity that they then use on Lemonade. Is there ever a point when we are actually allowed to use this content, or what do we need to be aware of to make sure we're not going to infringe on someone's copyright, Tony?
Yeah, so this rule, I think, not only applies to Lemonade, but it applies across the board to all social media platforms. And that's that you have to understand that whether you're talking about using someone else's photo or someone else's video to evoke a message, you have to remind yourself that someone invested the time, effort, maybe even money at times to make that work of authorship. Because each of those assets, whether you're talking about a photo, an animation, a drawing, a video, anything that of that sort, all of that are copyrighted materials. Those are all protected under copyright law. We've talked about it many a time in a lot of Cam's videos. I'm sure you can check it back in a playlist. But to reiterate it, copyright is an original work of authorship that is fixed in the tangible medium of expression. And copyright vests with the copyright owner the moment that they create that fixation, the moment that work of authorship is created. Now, you reinforce copyright by way of registration. You go to the U.S. Copyright Office website, you file an application, you register. It's very cheap to do. It's about $40 to $50, maybe even $60. But even then, very costly method, not inexpensive, very inexpensive process. You get your registration certificate, you call it a day, end of story. But it's important to note, again, that works of authorship are like photos, videos, drawings, anything of that sort. Those are all works of authorship that are protected under copyright law. And when someone creates it, there are rights that vest with that specific copyright owner. So if I took a picture of, let's say, myself, let's say in the middle of Times Square, that photo belongs to me because my finger was on the trigger of the phone and I was the one that took that photo. But now, because I took that photo and because under copyright law, I automatically am the copyright owner, I own the copyright to that, I now have rights that vest with that. So now I have the right to publicly display that work wherever, on social media, platforms, on a billboard, wherever I want, because I own the copyright to it. I have the right to make reproductions out of that. I could make photostatic copies and I could send them to everybody. I could make multiple copies of that digital file and I could distribute it to all my friends wherever I see fit. Why? Because I am the copyright owner and those rights vest with me, the copyright owner. If someone else comes into the picture and takes my work, then I have the right to pursue a copyright infringement claim against them, so long as I have my photo of me in Times Square registered in the U.S. Copyright Office. Because under copyright law, you cannot proceed in a copyright infringement claim without having your work fully registered with a registration number in the U.S. Copyright Office. So if someone infringed on my work, I could go about it by sending a cease and desist. If they don't comply, then I could escalate it into a claim, either by way of going to the Copyright Claims Board, which is kind of a small claims court within the U.S. Copyright Office, or I could even take it to federal court by an index number and file my copyright infringement claim under federal court. All that to say, do you want to be in that situation? If you found a really dope photo on, Google or Pinterest or anywhere else that clearly belongs to somebody else, and you rip it and you put it on Lemonade or any other social media platform for that matter, the question you want to ask yourself is, are my pockets deep enough? Because, at the end of the day, there is no justification for using someone else's material in that manner. I really, really hate when people then say, oh, well, I'm using it under fair use. Fair use, I'm going to say right here, I don't know if I've ever made this statement like this, but I'm going to say it here. Fair use under copyright law is the most used and abused term in all of intellectual property law. Everyone and their mother somehow says, oh, I'm using this material under copyright fair use doctrine. No copyright infringement intended. If you're making a statement like that, you're infringing to commit copyright. Okay, you're infringing. You're intending to infringe on the copyright. So all that to say, don't use someone else's copyrighted material unless you've asked for permission. Fair use is not going to work, especially if you're using someone else's copyrighted material that's a static post. If you found, let's say, a photo that belongs to a wedding photographer, and let's say you're on Lemonade and you want to post it because you found it inspirational or you found it beautiful or something, that wedding photographer is going to go after you, and they're going to go after you hard because wedding photographers value those professional photos that they take. So all that to say, your fair use doctrine isn't going to work. It's not going to hold any weight whatsoever. Fair use has better legs to stand on for video, but even then you have to be very careful because there's a 4-factor test that goes into copyright fair use analysis across the board, no matter what. But one factor isn't dispositive of the other. And it's a matter, again, of whether or not a trier of fact would view your fair use defense as valuable or not. And so there's no guarantee that fair use is going to work across the board in every single circumstance. It's very fact specific. It's very evidence specific. There's a lot at play. It's not as simple as just saying fair use and calling it a day. So bear that in mind. These are all kind of like the general rules. Obviously, if you're even the slightest bit skeptical of your use of someone else's copyrighted material on Lemonade, go talk to a lawyer. But this lawyer is telling you to tread lightly because at the end of the day, someone invests the time, effort, and money to make a copyrighted work. How would you feel if you invested time, effort, and money to make a copyrighted work and just someone just takes your work without asking for permission? If the answer is that you'd be pissed, then think of the other person on the other side of the screen.
Very valuable point. And if you do need help creating your content, we have lots of resources for you down below. We always encourage you to license content properly. And there are different websites and different places where you can very easily license content to be used on your social platforms. But we want to make sure that we're not just grabbing things off of the internet, because crediting them does not protect you in any way, shape, or form. So we always want to make sure that you are staying legally protected and that you're being smart about the content that you are creating. Make sure you follow along for upcoming episodes on how to thrive on Lemonade. If you've got further questions on this, drop them down below. And as always, you can reach out to Tony with your questions as well. Tony, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor. And you can check out my podcast, NScene, and Entertainment Law Podcast, released every Friday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Be sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell because every single day we are dropping episodes to help you navigate the world of Lemonade, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, live streaming, and the tools and tech you need to save time and effort creating your social content. If you have further questions, drop those down below. Tony's coming back for more episodes, but we want to make sure that we're making this your most profitable year ever, and legally protecting you is a part of that. So we'll see you in our upcoming episodes, helping you navigate social media and stay on the legally protected side.